Good morning, it's Angela with Nana Faye's Reborn Nursery, and I'm ready to start doing washes. I'm going to start with a red wash just because that's how I like to do it. No reason in particular. Let me pick the red that I think I need. I don't know. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to use, this is just Brilliant Red. It definitely is the one I've been using. I can see the brush strokes in the top of the container. And I'm going to decide which, my mop brush is no more. So I'm trying to figure out which one of these is going to be better for me to mop with so I can keep it aside. I don't want to get it wet. I'm going to start out by putting some distilled water in this cup, and I'm going to start with like 3 cupfuls. 1, 2, 3, and that's what I'm going to use to make a wash. We paint these babies with a wash, and as you will see, you don't need a lot of paint because you do a lot of washes. You do wash after wash. This brush is not going to work for me. This one will. Some of my brushes are a little bit dilapidated because before I painted babies and before time got away with me, I really got into oil painting. So I've had a lot of brushes for a really long time. Your favorite brushes always look the worst, you'll see. I'm trying to get this the right consistency because I want it to be a type of milky look, because as I said, we're going to put a bunch of washes on here so we can go slowly and get just the right amount of paint on the baby. Let me see if you can see this. As I run it up here, there's a little bit of color that sticks, and that's what we want. I'm stirring so much because paints sometimes get little bitty spots, and you really don't want to get little bitty spots on your baby. You can work with them and add them into her character, which is the way that she's going to come out, because not all of us can control what our skin looks like. But I would prefer not to have to deal with it if I can avoid it. I like the way her veining turned out. You may not be able to see very clearly because the veining's pretty light, but that has dried overnight. Normally you need to wait 20 minutes in between a wash. Sometimes when you go slowly and the paint has dried, I will go ahead and start the next one as soon as I finish the limbs, but usually I try to wait the full 20 minutes after one is done. And I paint with a sponge. This is what I prefer because some people brush it on, and there will be places that I can't get the paint to, but my sponge was wetted, and so I have dipped it in this water. And for my red wash, I'm going to take and open up my sponge, and I'm going to just paint this way. This gives me a not all over coverage. But if you ever look at your skin, it's very doubtful that your skin is going to be completely even. You've got different tones and different spaces on your skin, and this is going to give it a realistic look more than if you just painted it on. There's a hair from our lovely little cat visitor who likes to leave those things floating around. I'm not real fond of that fact, but the child attached to the cat is. Then after I get the color that I want from this first wash, because it's going to be very quickly done, I'm going to take a sponge. Again, this sponge is pretty much colored. It has already seen its time. It's proven its value. I work on a towel that may not look clean. It is clean, but it has many coats of paint on it because I use it to dab on. I'm just taking off the moisture that's on here, trying not to smear it as I go, but I'm just picking up the excess of the wash so that it doesn't dry in a big spot. See, here we have a spot that's just more paint than I actually want there. I don't want it to dry like that, so I'm going to dab it off. It's probably why I get to do so many layers, from continually dabbing it off. Now, as I said, I sometimes use the brush to put paint in places that I don't reach. Ah, silly cat hair. I'm not crazy about that. But this is how I'm going to manage doing this. I'm going to take and dab that into the corners of the eye because I don't want to miss that spot. It's going to be an area that I shade later on, so we might as well start adding depth now. Around the nose, in the mouth, and then I'm going to do inside of his ears. Her ears, excuse me. If I start referring to this as a boy now, we're going to end up with another boy baby. We keep doing that. I'm going to use this brush that I've chosen as my mop and pick up this excess paint, water, out of the ears. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear the dogs having a fit outside. They're probably annoying the fire out of the neighbors. They're building houses behind us, and the workers keep our dogs in turmoil. They don't think it's the most wonderful thing to have happened to their lives, to have heavy equipment out there. Okay, first wash on the head is complete. I'm going to look at it really good and make sure that there are no pink spots, because the red with that much water is going to turn pink. And then I'm going to continue on with the other lens. I'm going to move this lamp just a tad bit so the light shines down better for me. Okay, I need to put the lid on this. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to re-dip, and I'm going to re-squeeze the paint out of the sponge. This is a natural sea sponge I got at Michael's. It is nice and floppy, my preference. I wouldn't call this actual mottling, because mottling is a term that's used to show when you make the little colorations on the baby where the baby can appear to be cold. But this is just, it's too close together and such in order for it to be considered mottling. And I'm going to put it everywhere because I want this to show up. It's going to be on the nails and everywhere, especially these first layers. You don't want to pick and choose where you want color. You want color everywhere. You just don't want it to be a solid color. I don't like it to be a solid color. That's one thing that's fabulous about painting and artwork is everybody has their own style and they have their own look and they have what they like better. A lot of people choose to have medium in their paint that will help it adhere to the body. I have not had a problem, thank goodness, with that happening. My problem comes when I add something to the paint to help it, to prolong the mobility of it, because it's the unforgiveness of the acrylic that people are trying to get past. But when I prime my baby and put on a sealer coat before I start painting, it actually helps my paint adhere to the vinyl. So that's not a problem for me. And my paint will go on and it will stick on, and I just don't like having the extra stuff added to it because it doesn't seem to work well for me. Okay, one arm down. Here again, we're gonna see how lightly there's a difference, but there is a difference. And as we continue on, I use many coats of paint and you'll see that. I see